I wanted to wait to make this video, I don't know, until I decluttered my room and looked kind of nice. It was on a day when I wasn't having a flare-up and a multitude of other things. And I just realized today that FND is none of those things. There is no planning, there's no control, there's no structure. A seizure disorder is spontaneous and unforeseen and scary and unpredictable, amongst many other things. And I want a video about it to do justice to that. I want to paint as real of a picture as I can. And this is about as real as you can get. Today I could hardly get out of bed. I had to crawl everywhere because every time I would stand up my head would pound and I just want to pass out. The past few days I've had a seizure every single day, and I haven't ever really experienced them back to back to back like that. It's really scary and really exhausting, and my body is obviously tired and trying to regroup. I can't drive a car right now. Every time I get behind the wheel, I'm very exhausted, and my car constantly reminds me that I should pull over to rest. It's ironic. So I'm very aware of that. I have narcolepsy, and excuse me, the narcolepsy attacks have been a lot this week as well. It seems like any day I'm not symptomatic for FND, I'm symptomatic for narcolepsy, and they're just kind of hopscotching off the other. And my nights are filled with narcoleptic nightmares. So sleep is not very deep, and I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. And I don't say all of this to say, oh my gosh, please feel sorry for me, or woe is me, you know, this is awful. Having a seizure disorder has grown me in many ways. First of all, I didn't even know that there were so many different types of seizures. I'd heard of epilepsy, and that's about it. That's the extent of my knowledge. I knew that you seize up and shake, and somebody has to hold your head still, and those can be dangerous. And that's about all I knew. So when I got diagnosed with FND, it came as a bit of a shock. I'd been having the seizure episodes for a little bit, but I didn't know that there was another seizure disorder that you could have. FND is defined as functional neurological disorder, and it comes with many symptoms, the main one being functional seizures, which don't follow a set pattern. They aren't the result of misfiring signals in your brain like epilepsy is, and so it's a bit harder to find for doctors, and it's very little researched, even less so than narcolepsy. So finding a disorder that was even, more rare than narcolepsy was a little tough. I'm still figuring it out. It's only been a few months since I got diagnosed, but yeah, there's not a lot out there, so it was difficult to get that diagnosis and know that while it's not necessarily that I wanted to be diagnosed with epilepsy, but on the one hand, epilepsy does have a set treatment plan. You can manage it with medication and the like. You can't do that with FND. They don't really know why it happens. There are theories, there are a lot of research papers and a lot of new studies being done, but it's still in its early stages, and there's just not a lot out there. They don't know what triggers it. They have ideas. You can have psychogenic seizures, which are often triggered by trauma. You can have psychologic triggers, or might be physiologic triggers, that are more triggered by the lack of oxygen and improper blood flow and sugar in your brain, which seems to be more along the lines of what I have, but I'm not for certain on that one yet. The best way I've been managing it right now is literally just documenting it every time it happens, getting samples whenever it happens so that I can train Nala on the scent, and she can be able to inform me when I'm going to have a seizure to make it a little bit easier. As of right now, I have about 20 minutes after I have trigger, when I do have triggers, to get to a safe place and know that it's going to happen, but it's different every single time. I do want to thank everybody in my life who's been so wonderful and so understanding about the situation. I have a lot more questions than answers right now as well, and but the people closest to me have just been there to hold my hand and ask what can they do, and that's all you can really do. I can give you things to do when I'm having a seizure, but in all reality, you just have to let it pass. Even with epileptic seizures, it's you hold the person's head and you have to let it pass through their body. They might take medication. I don't do that, but you get the idea. It means the world for somebody to just walk through it with me, just sit there with me. My amazing roommate Katie will rub my back and hold my hand, and that means so much more than she knows. The amount of nights that she's just sat with me while I cried, and just been there through all the episodes, been there in public, been there in private. Just be there for anybody you know that might be dealing with a similar diagnosis. I want to talk about a lot of things upcoming, and I might just dedicate separate episodes to all of those things because there's a range of topics, one of which being navigating the working world with a seizure disorder, that which is still pretty new to me. New process every single day, and let me tell you, it is stressful, which is hard because stress doesn't make a seizure disorder better. It can often help to trigger episodes. And employers often have a lot of questions that I don't have the answers to because I'm still new to everything, and even further along the line, there's still some things that just won't have answers because it is a sporadic illness. There aren't set patterns. I can't absolutely say, oh, okay, you can send me out to this place and I'm not going to have a seizure while I'm there. I just don't know. And society doesn't really, it's not really built to accommodate for these things. It's either you do the job or you don't do the job. And I think we're getting to a point where disabilities they're taken into account a little bit more, but it's still in its early stages of accommodation where we're actually getting real accommodations, because again, the system is not built for people who are different. It's not built for people who don't operate normally. You just have to figure out how to function. And for me, it's becoming increasingly harder to do so because it's at the expense of my health. When it comes down to it, I'm choosing to push through, knowing that pushing through and that additive stress could cause me to have an episode, and it could be a dangerous situation. Or I can choose to not do it at all, but I don't have a job. It really comes down to those two things, and that's not coming against any employer or anything like that. It's just something that you have to deal with when you have seizure disorder, and I do want to talk about that, again, to bring light to it and to help support anyone else dealing with the same thing. Primarily, the point of this first video is to say I sympathize with anybody going through a disorder like this, going through any invisible illness. It's not easy. It's really hard. And you have some really, really bad days, and you have some okay days, but you have a lot of really bad days. And just to understand what it's like from a perspective of somebody who's going through it, people will tell you that you're not alone, and it's still wonderful to say that, not saying, don't remind your friends that they're not alone, but know that it can be very hard for somebody with a disorder to accept that, because it feels very isolating when you're going through a seizure and your reality is distorted and you feel like you're on a different planet and you're outside of your body and you're out of control. No one's experiencing that. No one's in it with you, in your brain, experiencing these horrors. Nobody's in with you in the nightmares, and it's really difficult to know how to really bring people into that with you. The doctor's appointments, sitting at these appointments where you have to go by yourself oftentimes because, I don't have the time to go spend 3 hours of my day at a doctor's appointment, but I don't have a choice because I want to get better. So I know that friends and family, even though they, sympathize, they don't have time to spend in those appointments, and very often it means going at them alone. And it is really, really hard to sit in those offices waiting for answers, or waiting hours and not even getting an answer, and instead getting a fat doctor's bill on top of all the others that you already have, or getting a diagnosis that is something that you weren't suspecting, that's scary, that's new, that completely throws a wrench in your plans and rips the carpet out from under you. I've experienced all of these things, and it is really difficult. But there are people who are here for you. I sympathize with you. I know what you're going through. It will get better. I believe that. I believe that healing is around the corner, and there's a reason for everything, even though it's in the middle of an episode. Let me tell you, it's not a fun thing to repeat to yourself that there is a reason for everything, but I will unpack that in future episodes, as my seizure disorder has been the biggest strengthener of my faith, hands down. There is hope. I promise you, there is wonderful hope, and I hope that I can be a reminder of that to anybody else struggling. You're not alone. I'm here. God is most definitely here, and I can't wait to share more. Thank you so much for sitting here and listening to me go on about this topic. This is for anybody who loves me and cares about me, or literally anybody coming to know more about what your friends are experiencing, maybe what you're experiencing. It's time to talk about these things more, and I'm excited to do so.